Cool. All right. Mm, okay. So week 12, briefly share the problems you identified and the solutions you recommended in your case write-up. So um, the two main things, and I'm sure you'll agree on this, that I saw were uh, we did that assignment on engagements, and that's what I noticed a big problem with her, with Chris and her group, was that she was obviously struggling to get her group to jump completely on board. They each were working kind of their own separate ways, and it was hard to get some team cohesion. There's even part of the case study where she like takes a break and has them all meet up at, at some mountain to go for a hike, and then they meet together for a barbecue at her house afterwards to try and do like a team building activity, because I think she started to try and do that, but they were just kind of all over the place, and they were often asking help from a specialist to get the final answers on things, if you will. So they were kind of doing their work, and then they were reaching out to the specialist to get the final say on things. And, they thought that was a great thing, but turned out it wasn't. Um, so I recommended that they should try to, that Chris herself needs to try and get her team a good direction, get them headed in the same place and with the same goal in mind, because it just kind of seemed all over the place to me. So,
Well, and along with that, I think, I don't think there's an issue necessarily of using other departments to help, but I think this whole thing comes around to the concept of lack of communication.
yeah.
And to me, that's the biggest overall picture from what I gathered on it. Lack of communication between themselves as a team. They were using other people to help them accomplish it, which again isn't a problem if you are all on the same page as to, hey, I need help with this, seeing if someone else can help you, seeing if what, and that, hey, Meg understands I need to go outside of our bounds to get a little bit of help on this project, or not Meg, excuse me, Chris. But then with that, it seems like there was a lack of communication between Meg and Chris
Mhm.
as to what Meg's expectations were, because towards the end of this, as we were reading through it, Chris kind of was blindsided by Meg's feelings towards it, almost, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
She didn't see coming the whole, maybe you need to um that, like, this project isn't working, and are you even, accomplishing, where Chris kind of feels like, hey, we're kind of finally coming together, we're almost done with it, there's a lot of real good possibility here. It just seemed like there was that lack of communication between the two of them, if that
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
agree. And that really leads into the next question, is create a list together of the things Chris did well as a leader of the team. You may also want to consider all the good things that her team did. And I think you're right. Like, they, with what they were feeling like the expectations were as a team, I think they were trying to pull that off. And Chris as a leader, I mean, it mentions in there, and I'll bring it up again, but when she noticed people were really getting off of the same page and like they were not working well together anymore, she had everyone take a day off of work to go and just breathe for a minute. Can't speak highly enough of doing that type of crap. It's um probably the most beneficial thing for somebody who is working on a big project or trying to get something done by a deadline. It's the most counterintuitive thing. You're like, oh, we got to cram to get this done. Sometimes taking, you know, 2, 3 hours to breathe rather than sitting there behind the computer again and then coming back together again is something that a boss would also really benefit from, because sometimes you just got to take a step away from everything and just say, hey, what's our ultimate goal here? To get this project approved, to get these ideas, working the way that we need them to go to help the school district and pull things off. I think she did really well there. I also think maybe, I mean, it's not asking, what she did poorly, but maybe she should have asked earlier. Or yeah, the next one, what went wrong and why? That's the next question. Um, expectations. She didn't know exactly what was expected of her, I think.
Yeah, I think that they just kind of they're I can't get over the final couple paragraphs with Meg going, hey, we've decided not to do this because it's just not working.
Yeah.
And it even says, where is it? It even says uh number of the new products, yes, blah blah blah, and that teams in other regions had not reported any interest on the part of the districts they had worked with for this type of product. And so, like, why was that communication not given to Chris sooner? Like, hey, can you help us? There doesn't seem to be an interest. And even Chris says, um, she went on to say that she did not understand how other regional teams could say that there would not be a demand for the product when they did not even know what the planning and scheduling system could do. So why wasn't there a conversation where Meg goes, "Hey, give me a brief synopsis. What do we think the benefits are going to be? What are we going to what are going to be the points of this that are going to be beneficial for the districts so that other regions can discuss it with the districts and hype it up and get it going." It just seemed like there was, we're going to have you do this project. It's really super important. It's not really super important.
Yeah.
So you do this and really work hard on this because we really want to launch this. We don't know if we're going to launch this.
Right.
Like it just seemed like, I think Chris was almost put into a bad situation, um, almost from the get go, if that conversation wasn't being had.
Right. And I think because that was the way it was, the crew and everybody started to you started hearing chitter chatter about how Meg is uh playing favorites. And that stems a lot from what you were just talking about. So
Yeah, not even necessarily favorites, like favorites beyond this group. Like, was she
yeah,
playing favorites with other districts, playing favorites with other projects versus to this project? Was this project not as important to her as
right.
other projects?
And it's like maybe she just threw this together, willy-nilly.
Yeah.
The next one says, consider the two great commandments and the Lord's statement that on these two hang all the law and the prophets. Is there any evidence that Chris's team did not effectively apply the two great commandments? Explain your thoughts. Well, love the Lord thy God and love the neighbor as yourself. Those two.
Okay, so I'm hard pressed to understand how that applies in this situation.
So I was just about to ask you that.
Um, the only thing I could potentially see is Meg
Mm-hmm.
not giving her teams, not caring about them maybe the way she should. But even that's a stretch in my book. I don't see how this applies.
Yeah.
I
And,
don't. I
and it,
mean, I think especially because you look at what Chris has done. Chris attempted to create a relationship with her people, which I think is a good thing. Yeah,
right. And then the next one is if you were in Chris's shoes and you could go back in time and start over, how might you quote unquote hang all of your plans on the two great commandments? How might that inform your plans and strategy to create better understanding and seek buy-in from internal and external customers and key stakeholders? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not seeing the application across it. Maybe
nope.
I'm missing something here from the case study that maybe I should understand better. But if she could go, if I were in Chris's shoes and could go back in time and start over, how might I hang all? I would get on the same page with Meg first before I tried to approach my crew. And that may be how I'm showing love to them, is because I'm going to her first. I'm really reaching.
Well, and maybe trying to get your team on the same page from the get-go, getting to know them from the onset of putting them on your team. Maybe making sure you put the right people on your team so that you're not stretching them too thin, or that they're in a part of a project or in a system that they don't necessarily have full buy-in on, which then maybe sure,
Yeah, sure.
go with that.
That'll work for me. And we're on our last question here. As you've discussed the case as a group, is there anything you would change about the solution you're proposing? In your case, write up why or why not? The three proposals that I threw up, the three issues and the proposals, each had something to do with communication and participation in some form or manner. I wouldn't change that in the slightest. I may add on to it by saying, now that we've looked at it more, maybe the whole issue was Chris was working really, really hard with her team, thinking she was doing a great thing. And ultimately she just got trashed in the end of it. So was there something she was missing from the get-go that
Were
could
there any
have,
signs that she could have seen, or any conversations with Meg
yeah,
that she could have seen this sooner and tried to make changes from the get-go?
right. I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's good, man. Honestly, it's one of those, and when our professor watches this or glances over ours, if I were to throw anything out there, all the other case studies were it was pretty visible what the issue, it was easy to understand. This was my hardest one to understand, and even the write-up, like once you do yours, Jared, you'll see like I was kind of reaching a little bit on every single issue because it
Yeah.
wasn't as clearly stated, which is fine. I think that's how the world problems are, but
It's outside the box thinking, I guess. And
yeah.
and I could see, I mean, I could definitely see some things, and I don't know if I'm seeing the same thing they want us to see, because I'm
Right.
putting a lot of blame on Meg on this one, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
she's the
So
boss. She should be the one that's everything falls on. If there's
yeah.
anything to hang all on, it's the fact that Meg sent a team of people out to work on a project that she felt, it honestly feels like she knew that it was a shot in the dark from the get-go. And doing that to anybody is not cool, man.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
sending people out to do that, it's not cool. So,
Yeah.
well, all right, my brother. Well, I will get this going. It's sad we haven't seen Elijah in weeks, man.
Yeah. That's sad.
I hope everything's cool over there. He responded, but then I have never heard anything today, and I know it's
Oh,
got to
did he
be like,
respond? I didn't see a response come through.
no, he never responded today. He
Oh,
responded last week and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I could even lead it next week." And then he's like, it's got to be close to midnight in Africa right
yeah,
now.
because I want to say when we were yeah, because when we were at 1 o'clock, it was 8, wasn't it?
Yeah,
1 o'clock my time, 11 your time, 8 his time, I think.
right.
Yeah. Oh well.
Well, there you go,
Hopefully
man.
all is
We
well.
will, next week is the last week, bro. So we'll shoot for the same time and we'll finish
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah, I'll be good.
See you, bro.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.